Right now from Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit, Mr. Rick Ector is with us. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. Not going to let this dreary weather get me down, man, but I'm doing fine. Hey, I hear the weather's there. Looking up, man. You guys are supposed to get 90 degrees tomorrow, right?
Yeah. Summer has arrived down here. Sorry for y'all.
I think we had summer last week when the temperatures were like in the 80s, and I think we're in the fall right now.
That is ridiculous. I blame global warming. It's all climate change, Rick. Maybe you should stop driving, turn off all the lights in your house, and you'll have a nice sunny 75-degree day. Just like if you got rid of all your guns, we wouldn't have any crime in Detroit.
Well, that definitely would not be the case. For years, we look at places in which the gun laws were so draconian that you'd wonder how anybody ever managed to get shot. But, when we look at places, like New Jersey, New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., we all know that isn't true. Bad guys are going to find a way to get them. The only question is whether ordinary law-abiding citizens can have access to a means of defending themselves. Because, heck, let's face it, the police can't be everywhere. And you know what? Would we really want that anyway, right? The definition of a police state would be the police and the government on every corner watching your every move, So for those of us that love freedom, that's not an acceptable solution either.
I would agree with you wholeheartedly, Rick. And I think I think that this debate is playing itself out in a lot of different avenues. When we talk about the NSA metadata collection, for instance, I think that's another angle of this same conversation that we're having here. But it is interesting that in Michigan we've had an anti-gun state senator, someone who believes again that you probably shouldn't have your job as a firearms instructor. You shouldn't be teaching people concealed carry laws. You shouldn't be helping people get their concealed carry license. You shouldn't helping people get trained and knowledgeable about firearms. Virgil Smith's been charged with felonious assault, malicious destruction of personal property of more than $20,000, domestic violence assault and battery, as well as a felony firearm offense. Apparently, it is alleged that the state senator fired shots at his ex-wife's car early last Sunday morning, Rick.
I had to look at the calendar and make sure that it wasn't April 1st. Just some of the details have been very lurid and salacious, but when you strip away all of the, background controversy, it really is a case of hypocrisy and elitism. We have an elected state senator who, by virtue of his anti-gun, anti-self-defense votes, has earned, rightfully so, a D rating from the National Rifle Association and an F for failure, from one of the gun rights groups, Michigan Coalition of Responsible Gun Owners, and I believe also MGO, Michigan Gun Owners here in Michigan. For someone who has definitely been a foe of gun rights and self-defense, some of the arguments they typically use is that, citizens can't be expected to behave responsibly. And then when you look at the fact that, lo and behold, surprise, surprise, he actually owns firearms. And not only does he own firearms, he is accused of using them criminally. Some of the criminal allegations that have been, brought up in the set of circumstances surrounding this case, it just blows your mind. Who goes outside butt naked with an AR and shoots up a Mercedes-Benz with a reported 10 shots? It just proves to show that gun control has absolutely nothing to do with the guns. It's really about control. And the thing that really bugs me about this is that this case, ironically, a state legislator accused of committing gun crimes is now the latest example for the other anti-gun people to say that non-special people or people who are not in positions of power cannot own firearms. It's insane. This whole case is just crazy.
Have any of the anti-gun advocates having to say anything that you've seen there in Michigan, Rick, or is all who? Who, state senator, who?
Well, I haven't seen any anti-gun people, parading, this particular case. I know that some organizations are calling for him to resign, and whether he does that or not, that's really, up to the people who are represented by him. Really, my personal opinion, I'd rather have him, stay in office and serve as the poster child for projection. Projection is when you don't necessarily believe that people can be held responsible for their actions, because deep down inside, you don't believe that you can be held responsible. And I think some of the allegations that are surfacing in this case, he even went so far as to say publicly that this was the greatest mistake he's made in his life. He's pretty much owned up to it and fessed up to shooting the car, but has stopped short of that. But the fact that he cannot be responsible, I believe that translates into its anti-gun votes for extending and preserving gun rights for law-abiding citizens in our state.
Talking with Rick Ector of Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit, and I am curious, Rick. I mean, does something like this change the dynamic of the debate there in the legislature?
Our legislature, is I believe is decidedly pro-gun.
Mm-hmm.
We just happen to have a governor who, is taking money from Bloomberg and is really, not really been a fervent supporter of gun rights that are truly meaningful. Some of the legislation we've got passed lately has been relatively small things, such as not classifying air guns as firearms and, things of that nature, codifying what brandishing is, to clarify that open carry is not brandishing. When we look at the so-called pro-gun party here in Michigan, man, controls all states of local government, there's no reason why we shouldn't be pushing for repeal of these pistol-free zones, or we should be pushing for constitutional carry. Everything is there. But in terms of changing the conversation on gun rights, no, it pretty much our legislature is pro-gun, overall. It's just that we have a governor that's in the way. So, all we can do is just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and be encouraged by what our other patriots are doing in other states.
Well, I think that's what you do, and as you say, we have seen some progress in Michigan. Certainly, we're not seeing things go the other way in the state of Michigan, and that is a very good thing right now. Listen, Rick, I appreciate you coming on the program, sir. It's good talking to you. You got to be holding any courses this weekend?
Yeah, actually, I'm teaching a CPL class tomorrow, but and as much as I love teaching people how to empower themselves, with the statutory requirements to get the license to carry concealed here. One of my big annual events is this Sunday. Me and a bunch of my fellow National Rifle Association firearms instructors and range safety officers, we are going to train 300 women who may not have any experience with firearms at all. We're going to give them a range safety briefing and put them in the booth one-on-one with an NRA-certified firearms instructor, and we're going to introduce them into shooting. We're going to teach them fundamental firearm safety, and we're going to teach them how to make those nice, pretty holes in targets, man. It's going to be a great activity. I'm sure I'm going to let you guys know all about it after Sunday, but I'm really excited about it because I feel that it's definitely needed, particularly in this regional area where bad guys have no qualms whatsoever about attacking women.
Rick, listen, thanks for everything you do, sir. It's always a pleasure getting a chance to spend some time with you, and look forward to doing this again very soon.
Hey, man, thank you so very much for having me on. Give my regards to everybody, and hopefully, I'll see you guys in Louisville. Man, that sounds great. Louisville, Kentucky next year.
Yes, sir. Hopefully we'll get to see each other before then, but we will see each other in Louisville next year.
All right, buddy. Take care and give my regards to everybody.
I certainly will. Thank you so much. Rick Ector joins us from Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit right here on NRA News, Cam and Company.